Hello gamers! Today we are indulging in nostalgia and reminiscing about games that truly dominated the charts. I have compiled a list of all the winners of the main gaming award, Game of the Year, for each year from 2014 to 2024. Let's dive into the history of game development and remember those masterpieces that still give us goosebumps. We'll be focusing on the Game Awards. It's kind of like our gaming Oscars, the biggest gathering in the world of game development, where they sum up the year at the end of it. If you disagree with something or have your own favorite, feel free to write in the comments who you think really should have been named Game of the Year. So, let's get started. 2014, Dragon Age. Let's start with 2014. That year, the top prize went to Dragon Age Inquisition. This game from BioWare is perhaps one of the most, let's say, controversial. Some fiercely criticize it for its endless open worlds, calling it a sub-MMO. Others are delighted with the plot, dialogues, and cool characters. Let's be honest, 2014 was, to put it mildly, not the most fruitful year for masterpieces. Yes, there were some good games, but nothing that could be called wow. So Inquisition didn't have to work too hard to beat the competition. It competed against Bayonetta 2, Dark Souls 2, Hearthstone, and Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. And it won. Deservedly so? Well, that's up to you, of course, but in my opinion, not really. Personally, I would have given the prize to Mordor or even HS, one of the best collectible card games. But that's just my opinion. What kind of beast is Inquisition? It's a large-scale role-playing game that takes place a couple of years after the events of Dragon Age 2. Mages and Templars are at each other's throats again, and you, the commander of the Inquisition, must not only settle this mess, but also stop the demons, deal with palace intrigues, and sort out your personal life.
The game combines elements from the first and second parts. Relationships with companions have returned to the roots of DAO, while the combat system is closer to DA2. There are tons of side quests here, and the locations are so huge that it's amazing. To complete the game 100%, you'll have to spend at least 200 hours. Seriously. 2015, The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt. And here comes 2015. No surprises here. Game of the Year goes to The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt. And there's no question about it. It's well-deserved. Of course, Fallout 4, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Bloodborne were also good, but competing with The Witcher for the top spot, well, that's that. In my opinion, The Witcher is not just the game of the year, it's the game of the decade, if not more. This game is a true masterpiece, so groundbreaking that even now few can compare to it. Everyone knows The Witcher 3, even your grandmother, who doesn't play games at all. For me, The Witcher 3 is simply the best, one of my favorite games. Everyone knows The Witcher 3, even your grandmother, who doesn't play games at all. For me, The Witcher 3 is simply the best, one of my favorite games in history. What's so cool about it? The plot? Amazing. Long, detailed, with characters so vivid that you empathize with them. There are heartbreaking moments and epic battles. It's the perfect continuation not only of the previous games, but of the entire Geralt saga. The graphics? They were already top-notch in 2015, and after the next-gen update, they became simply out of this world. The landscapes are mind-blowing. You can literally feel the atmosphere change as you make your way through the swamps of Velen, walk the streets of Novigrad, or admire the sunsets on Skellige and in Kaer Morhen. You just have to see it. Words can't describe it. Agree? Music? It's a separate art form altogether. It fits perfectly into the Slavic setting.
By the way, this is one of those soundtracks that I listened to separately from the game afterwards. The only thing that didn't hook me personally, I'll be completely honest, is Gwent. It's not my genre. Card games? Sorry, I'm not a fan. In short, I'm wildly excited that I've completed The Witcher 3 with all the add-ons. It was just awesome. Definitely the game of the year. There's no arguing about that. 2016, Overwatch. So, 2016, we have Overwatch here. Incidentally, this is the first and so far only multiplayer project to win the title of Game of the Year. In 2016, Blizzard released a completely new universe and at the same time another masterpiece. But to be honest, I think Overwatch marked the beginning of Blizzard's decline. After that, things didn't go very well for them, to put it mildly, and then one disappointment followed another. Yes, Overwatch wasn't a revolutionary game, it didn't reinvent the wheel, and it didn't offer super complex new mechanics. The formula for success was extremely simple. 2 teams of 6 people chase after valuable cargo, capture points, and hold their positions. But this simplicity was deceptive. The game had an amazing balance between leveling up one character and the desire to try something completely new. The maps were simply magnificent, from industrial zones to Japanese temples. It was really hard to tear yourself away from the game. Every new battle was a real spectacle. But then Overwatch 2 came out, and here Blizzard, chasing money, sold, it seems, its soul, its conscience, and everything else it could. Attempts to push an agenda by changing the characters' stories, following all these global trends, even changing the name of good old McCree, it's just a slap in the face to its audience. And many other things simply killed this game. Yes, you can still play it now, it's still quite lively and enjoyable, but the game is slowly but surely dying, and I don't even know what needs to be done to revive it.
Okay, enough about the sad stuff. I would put Overwatch in second place because, in my opinion, a network shooter doesn't really fit into this category. But I would name Uncharted 4: A Thief's End as the game of the year. My choice for 2016, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. Uncharted is simply the gold standard for adventure action games. It features, dare I say it, the best directed scenes in the industry. Chases, fights, shootouts, parkour, puzzles, and all of this is so skillfully intertwined that the player never gets bored for a second. And the visual component of the game is simply amazing. The views are so beautiful that you constantly want to take screenshots. The graphics for 2016 were simply stunning. At one time, people bought PlayStation 4 just for this game, and believe me, it was worth it. So yes, I would give the Game of the Year award to Uncharted 4. Well, let's move on. 2017, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. 2017, and here we have The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. This Nintendo Switch exclusive won millions of hearts and became one of the highest-rated games in gaming history. Zelda took second place in the global rankings, receiving 97% positive reviews from both players and critics. It's an amazing game that personally sucked me into Hyrule for at least 100 hours, and I was playing it on an emulator on my PC. I think it would have been really cool on the Switch, but I didn't buy one just for one game. Although, I totally understand those who do, especially since The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom came out later, an equally legendary game. So now buying a Switch for these 2 games is definitely justified. The only thing that's a little disappointing is the plot, which, in my opinion, is rather simple, and there aren't really any characters to empathize with. The world here lives its own life, and Link doesn't really care about it. But exploring this amazing and beautiful Hyrule is a pleasure, and in fact, I think many players weren't in a hurry to save Zelda. She waited 100 years, she can wait a couple more weeks, right? After all, flying to some remote island or climbing the highest mountain in this game is so interesting. And the game constantly rewards you for exploring this world. You'll find a hidden sanctuary, defeat a mini-boss, dig up a treasure chest, and somewhere there's even a whole trial waiting for you. The graphics, I must emphasize, are simply awesome for their platform, although compared to modern AAA projects, they may not seem so sophisticated. But this game is not about graphics at all. It's about its own incomparable vibe, which can only be understood by playing it. And yes, this year, guys, I won't even argue, Zelda absolutely deserved to be named Game of the Year. 2018. God of War. But I strongly disagree with the 2018 selection. The Game of the Year is God of War. No, it's definitely a legendary game, especially for its time. There's no arguing that. But personally, it would have taken second place in my top list for 2018. We'll discuss who I think should have been in first place a little later. A little about the game. The beginning of the God of War story may seem a little strange, but then the plot picks up speed and it's impossible to put down. By the end of the game, all the mysteries are revealed and watching the plot unfold becomes truly interesting. The graphics at maximum settings produce an unrealistically beautiful picture. The game impresses with its awesome landscapes, cool backgrounds, and stunning ancient Scandinavian buildings. The bosses here didn't disappoint either, they were truly epic. In heated battles with bosses, the location turned into a bloody mess where everything was used: trees, rocks, and basically anything that came to hand. In short, the battles here are spectacular and very cool.
The only downside to the game, in my opinion, is that it's too linear. In short, the game simply won't let you stray from the path, or even jump over a small fence that's knee-high. It will force you to go around the fence and look for hidden detours. Yes, that's a big minus. But on the plus side, I'll note an interesting storyline, gorgeous graphics, simply amazing Russian voice acting, epic boss battles, and incredibly beautiful landscapes. And yes, guys, write your opinion in the comments. Did God of War deserve to be named Game of the Year? My opinion? God of War is undoubtedly a legendary game. But this year, in my opinion, a much more legendary game was released. And that game is called Red Dead Redemption 2. And in my opinion, it should have been the Game of the Year. You may disagree with me, and I understand that. Everyone has their own tastes, and there's no arguing about them. But I don't understand how such a masterpiece didn't become the Game of the Year, guys. Today, Rockstar is the undisputed leader in creating open and living worlds. And this game didn't just prove that fact once again. No, the developers surpassed themselves and set a new bar in game development. I won't talk much about the technical side of the game, because everything is already clear and obvious. It has stunning graphics, attention to every tiny detail, an awesome world design, dialogues that stick in your memory, and scene direction. There are simply no words. No one has ever been able to convey the spirit of the Wild West so coolly, and it seems that no one will be able to do so for a long time to come. And the landscapes here, guys, are just something else. No comment needed. Red Dead Redemption 2 is without a doubt Rockstar's best game, the most mature, deep, and heartfelt story about the Wild West that the gaming industry has ever seen. And, in my opinion, it completely undeservedly did not receive the title of Game of the Year, guys.
I still can't understand how this could have happened. Guys, do you have any ideas why this game didn't become Game of the Year? For me personally, this Game Awards ceremony was the biggest disappointment ever. 2019, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. 2019, Game of the Year, Sekiro. Despite being named Game of the Year, many consider Sekiro to be From Software's most controversial game. Its release divided fans of Souls-like games into two camps. Some claimed that the game was too easy, while others said it was extremely difficult. It is difficult to imagine a game that could surpass Dark Souls and Bloodborne, but that is precisely the impression Sekiro leaves. Sekiro is a game that really touched my soul. It has lore that is interesting and enjoyable to explore, cool boss battles that take your breath away, bringing, of course, suffering and pain, but then an incredible feeling of euphoria from victory. It has a very beautiful world that you want to explore every corner of, exciting stories, and simply mesmerizing soundtracks. Yes, perhaps it doesn't have the same level of gameplay variability as Souls, where you could assemble your dream character, run around with swords, spears, and axes of bizarre shapes, or wear armor that was striking in its originality. But Sekiro offers a slightly different experience. Sekiro is the clang of swords crossing in fierce battles with a master swordsman. It is freedom and ease of movement. It is cunning displayed in combat. And ultimately, it is the path of a warrior who relentlessly moves toward his goal despite all the obstacles in his way. Guys, I would also like to say a few words and make my own corrections. In my opinion, this year was also quite controversial, because there were several other good games that, in my opinion, could easily claim the title of Game of the Year. And I would like you to decide for yourselves which game you would prefer in 2019. Well, let's start with the first contender. This is Metro Exodus.
This part really made me fall in love with the Metro series. Despite minor flaws and bugs, the game is truly impressive in its design. A well-thought-out plot, dialogues, simply gorgeous graphics for 2019, and even now it looks very good. Overall, the game has excellent gameplay, and all of this together makes you love the game and spend hours and hours playing it. And honestly, I don't regret a single minute I spent on the game, because the emotions, empathy, and inspiration I experienced while playing are simply priceless. No other game has evoked such genuine and sincere emotions in me. At least, no other game in 2019 has evoked so many emotions, that's for sure. The second contender, in my opinion, is very controversial, Days Gone. But for some reason, many people loved this game. Personally, I didn't particularly like it. Yes, it's not bad, I won't argue with that, but I don't think it's good enough to be Game of the Year. But again, there's no accounting for taste, although I often saw people in the comments complaining that I was compiling lists of the best games without including Days Gone. Well, I've given you the opportunity to express your opinion about this game and whether it deserved the title of Game of the Year in 2019. You have the right to decide for yourselves which game should have been named Game of the Year. In your opinion, guys, should Metro Exodus have been named Game of the Year, or did Days Gone deserve the title after all? In short, write what you think in the comments. I'm really interested. 2020, The Last of Us Part 2. 2020, Game of the Year, The Last of Us Part 2. The only real competitor to Last of Us 2 was Cyberpunk 2077. But let's remember what happened when Cyberpunk was released, shall we? A bunch of bugs, unfinished features, terrible optimization. In short, the game was as raw as it gets, and that's putting it mildly. In my opinion, it only truly revealed its potential in 2023, when the Phantom Liberty DLC was released. And if Cyberpunk had been released in this form in 2020, it could have easily competed with The Last of Us Part 2. Almost everyone has heard of The Last of Us Part 2, even those who are not particularly interested in games. And there are good reasons for that. The project by Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann is practically unattainable for most studios, or at least a benchmark for them. In my opinion, it is absolutely deserving of the title of Game of the Year. Yes, it has all the necessary elements that are currently needed to win an Oscar, if you know what I mean, guys. I'm talking about agendas, if anyone didn't get it right away. But no matter how you feel about these things, they are not the main focus and do not run like a thick line through the entire game. In general, it didn't catch my attention or stand out to me personally. For me, it was a continuation of the same story with characters I had already grown to love. Yes, the story is heavy, dramatic, and very sad. And a masterpiece like The Last of Us Part 2, in my opinion, can be forgiven for all these flirtations with modern trends for just one episode with Ellie and Joel's trip to an abandoned museum. What a touching moment that touches the depths of the soul, as do many other episodes in this game. And let's not forget, guys, that there are no perfect games, and that's okay. The Last of Us Part 2 achieved the most important thing. The hours spent playing flew by unnoticed, and the story touched the most delicate strings of the soul, making you feel and empathize with what was happening. Definitely the Game of the Year. 2021. More fun together. 2021. Game of the Year, It Takes Two. The cooperative game of the year, and perhaps the best cooperative game of all time.
I have never encountered such deep and, importantly, interesting and exciting interaction between players anywhere else. 100%. The time spent playing the game will never be forgotten. A soli wpuszcza de campagne. You know, I only regret one thing, that I didn't play this game before it was nominated for Game of the Year. From the outside, it may seem like a typical game for children, and many people have a reasonable question: how could it become Game of the Year? However, this is not the case at all, and I can say with confidence that every adult will enjoy this game. At times, you are amazed at how the developers managed to hold the attention of both children and adults at the same time. Perhaps this is what ideal games should be like, constantly surprising. And this game is no worse than any other leader in the genre at surprising you. 2022. Elden Ring. 2022. Game of the Year.
Elden Ring. I've said many times already that this is From Software's most ambitious game, incorporating all the best elements from the Japanese studio's previous projects. There may be no such thing as a perfect game, but Elden Ring comes as close to perfection as possible. It brings together all the coolest features of Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro, but every story element and gameplay mechanic here is taken to a fundamentally new level. The whole game is a continuous upgrade of the studio's previous works. Yes, you'll find the same animations and sounds, familiar enemies, and even some characters. Whether that's good or bad is up to each player to decide. The visual aspect of this game is, without a doubt, the best part of Elden Ring, and I'm not talking so much about the graphics, which, of course, aren't exactly next-gen. I mean the design and the environment of this world. Even locations that seem unremarkable at first glance, like the graveyard or the Weeping Peninsula, together with the music, create an atmosphere that's simply indescribable.
It's a vast world full of mysteries and secrets where you can spend dozens of hours without even reaching the first story boss. It's a world you want to return to again and again, spending hundreds of hours there just to enjoy the magnificent battles and the breathtaking landscapes that truly fire up the imagination. And of course, to once again touch this genuine work of art. Game of the Year? Definitely and indisputably 2023 Baldur's Gate 3. And finally, 2023 Game of the Year Baldur's Gate 3. Last year, the only real competitor to Larian Studios' creation was The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, which some gaming media did in fact recognize as Game of the Year. Baldur's Gate 3 is a massive game with an enormous amount of lore, references, and mechanics. It's the most detailed role-playing game in history, where everything is handcrafted, where new adventures await you at every turn, where there are 13 main endings and over 14,000 variations. As of today, it's the pinnacle of creativity, not just for Larian, but for the genre as a whole. It's no coincidence that developers from other studios were worried that Baldur's Gate 3 would raise the quality bar so high that others simply wouldn't be able to reach it anytime soon. The developers did an incredible job, listened to the community, improved the game, and achieved the perfect balance. They managed to attract people who never imagined they'd play a game like this, and I'm one of them, by the way. I'd never played anything like this before. I don't know much about the D&D universe. I don't like to fuss over or read a lot about classes and abilities before starting a game. In fact, this game embodies everything I usually don't like, but it's made in such a way that it became one of my favorite games ever. Even after release, they keep improving it, and that's just awesome. And in my opinion, it's no surprise that a game in such, let's be honest, rather a unusual genre became Game of the Year.
Because any creation made with such soul and love is simply destined for success. Definitely Game of the Year. I won't even argue. Well, that's it. We've summed up the best games of the past 10 years. Every year, there were other big releases that could have claimed the title of Game of the Year, but there can only be one winner. Not everyone will agree, of course. By the way, guys, feel free to write in the comments about your favorite games that didn't get enough attention. I'd love to read them. Friends, if it's not too much trouble, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this a like. It really motivates me to create new content for you. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. There's lots of interesting stuff ahead. And as always, sending hugs and wishing you all the best. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones, friends. See you next time.